Michael Patrick Shields is on the air.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Friday to you. Aren't you happy to hear it's a Friday and the weather was fairly warm across the state of yesterday? Is that Indian summer that we're having right now? Well, it might be. There is some news this morning that we want to let you know about right away. And we try to bring you the newsmakers every single morning, the people who are making things happen. And right on the front page this morning of the state capital's newspaper, a union representing 2,100 nurses, pharmacists, and other professionals at Sparrow Hospital. Well, they filed a 10-day strike notice. It's a move by the Michigan Nurses Association after 2 days of negotiations. Union members rejected a contract proposal from the Lansing Hospital last week. So here's the deal, I guess. Union leaders said the nurses and other workers it represents will walk off their jobs at 7 a.m. November 22nd unless the union and the hospital managers reach an agreement. Kelly Rossman McKinney, the CEO of the Rossman Group, is on the other end of our line. What would that mean to people in hospital beds and people who have to go into hospital beds? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Michael Patrick. That's a great question. People who plan to be patients at Sparrow, and even those who certainly aren't planning to be patients yet, should certainly rest assured that Sparrow will continue to provide great quality care at the same levels of professional nursing that they currently do. You know, there are professional nurses around the country who are prepared to come in and provide quality care for our patients. So we're in good shape, and we'll continue to provide care for patients if the members of the Michigan Nurses Association, which is actually part of National Nurses United, go out on strike. And they, as you said, they've given notice that they plan to strike starting 7 a.m. November 22nd.
But how would the hospital do that minus 2,100 nurses and pharmacists and professionals? How would you be able to keep the level of care up? After all, we already have a nursing shortage, don't we?
We are absolutely prepared to provide that kind of care. This is not something that hospitals around the country are unaccustomed to, given the tactics of the National Nurses United. We are actually the 31st hospital in the country that this national union has indicated they will strike just in the last 6 months. So believe me, hospitals are fully prepared to deliver that quality care.
Okay, let's hope none of us have to be in the hospital anyway, whether they're fully staffed or not, or on strike or not. But there are people who are receiving care who would be worried about this story this morning. We thank you for setting the record straight.
Absolutely, Michael Patrick. Thanks very much. You know, I got to tell you, in this economic climate, anyone who's got a job has got to be darn grateful for it. And Sparrow has offered a wonderful package.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we will find agreement. We're back at the negotiating table at 10 o'clock this morning, and we're prepared to work around the clock.
Okay, so maybe it'll all be headed off anyway. Let's hope so. And let me ask you something. You're a newlywed, right?
Yes, I am. My husband's actually downstairs in the living room watching you on TV while I talk upstairs.
And are you going to be a deer widow this weekend? Is he a hunter?
He is a hunter. I'm not a deer widow this weekend because, you know, he's a police officer in Wyoming, Michigan. He's actually worked the last 10 straight days. He's home for the first time in about a week. So he'll be here with me for the weekend. But, well, actually, come to think of it, he is hunting Saturday for
See
a
that?
while.
There you go.
He's a bow hunter, so he's been out there already, and then he goes back out hunting crack of dawn on Monday.
That's right. First Light, and we'll have full coverage on this program. Lots of calls from deer blinds across the state of Michigan, and we'll talk about the economic impact of hunting, too. All those hotels and motels and lodges and restaurants and everything else that the hunters will invade throughout the state of Michigan. And Officer Dave, the Love Cop, will have the head start on everyone getting started on Saturday. All right.
Thanks, Michael Patrick Shields, for the shout-out to Officer Dave. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. That's Kelly Rossman McKinney from the Rossman Group on the potential strike at Sparrow Hospital. It's such a massive medical facility. We want to keep you up to date on that. President Obama is heading to Japan today. He was continuing this Asian trip. He was at the G20 Economic Summit in South Korea. And in a story that Gary Austin is following for us, you may have heard of the Westboro Baptist Church. Surely you have. All the controversy in the news with them lately. Well, guess what? you may be getting to know them a little bit more. Isn't that true, Gary? What's the story?
Well, MPS, here's the latest. This outfit is making news again, this time for a series of protests the group has planned in Michigan. This is coming up next week. They're going to be at the Islamic Center in Dearborn, the Hillel Jewish Center at Wayne State in Detroit, and at East Lansing High School. Now, on the Westboro website, you can check it out. The group calls the students at East Lansing High, listen to this, worthless brats.
Why?
That's what, no explanation given. The school principal has let moms and dads know this is going to be going on next week. And the East Lansing Police Department has been told about this as well. So this group, Westboro Baptist Church, in the state next week. Now, what they're doing at the Islamic Center in Dearborn and the Hillel Jewish Center at Wayne State, no description given as to what they're protesting and why they're showing up there. But there were specifics given from the East Lansing thing, East Lansing High School calling these kids worthless brats of all things.
This is the group where the fellow wanted to burn the Koran in Florida, am I right?
Oh, yeah, they also protest because they're upset at the military's position on gays in the military, and they say, I mean, they've gone so far as even suggest that when some of our troops, when they die overseas, according to this Westboro Baptist Church group, they had it coming. You know, this is something that should have happened to them because of the evils perpetrated by this country. I mean, it's a real strange thing. And, well, we've even had some cases where I remember last year, there was a situation where a parent of one of our troops, Michigan troops, who was killed, this group showed up and protested, and the parent filed a lawsuit against the Westboro Baptist Church. I mean, a whopping lawsuit. You know, a lot of money involved here, and this thing's all tied up in court. So we could have more of this here next week.
Picketing. Okay, let's hope it remains peaceful then. State officials yesterday are reminding their employees that using social network sites only for business purposes. And why is that all of a sudden come to the forefront?
Well, MPS, we know the story covered all too well this week, that situation involving, boy, I tell you what, there was a fella from the Wayland area, and these are the allegations. You know, he was allegedly online at the office working for the state, messing around apparently with Facebook, and then there was something involved there about trying to allegedly solicit a teen.
Yeah, you're dancing around it very nicely, but apparently police arrested John Schneider of the Michigan Department of Treasury for using MySpace, and he was trying to solicit teens. He was pretending he was a younger guy, and somehow they figured it out, and they only allow the use of social networking sites for official business use. So here's the thing, that the violators now face investigation from the State Department of Technology. And so he's looking at felony charges for trying to hook up with teenage girls while he was working for the state of Michigan. And even a scarier story out of Grant, Michigan now is that a woman's afraid for her life and the lives of her daughter and dog after she says a cougar attacked her German Shepherd Tuesday night.
Yeah, of all things, she said she saw it, this cougar. I mean, these animals are tough. And talk about big claws and big paws. And she said she saw this thing take a swipe at her dog, and then run off, apparently. And she's let the folks at DNR know about this. And they tell us that it's not unusual for these cougars to wander about, but whether or not this was an actual cougar, the investigation is ongoing. And
Terry Granger, she talked to the police officer, and the police officer doesn't believe there's a cougar near her home, and she thinks it's out there, waiting for her like a werewolf in the night. This cougar. So we got to give her a call because she's really scared. She's afraid to go. Imagine she'd be afraid to go to her car if it's parked in the driveway at night because that cougar, like Cujo, could be waiting to take a swipe at her.
Well, she's absolutely convinced, MPS, Michael Patrick Shields, that this is definitely a cougar, so we'll see. You know, I've got a story here out of Kentwood. This is a very unusual story, and there's a pharmacy there, Kentwood Pharmacy, facing charges, allegations. It was redistributing old medicine that had been bought from nursing homes. Now, earlier, there was a federal raid on this place, and now the pharmacy has filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Metro Source is reporting from here there's going to be a liquidation with money raised from that liquidation going to nearly 80 creditors. So that's how that story's shaking out.
We want to say congratulations this morning to a 10-year-old from Coopersville. She's a student, and how about this? She's getting an honor for community service work. Fifth grader Shelby Lynn Mayensma is the youngest person ever to get Mayor Bush's Citizen of the Year award. And the award was presented because she organized a record-breaking blood and bone marrow drive, and she wants to make her community a better place. And she says, sometimes you got to put other things before you. Now, I remind you, this girl is in 5th grade talking like that, 10 years old. So we'll make her our Northwood University Leader of the Day, too. At 10 years old, Northwood University celebrating 50 years of producing leaders. And it's Shelby Lynn Mayensma from Coopersville, who is working to help her community. You know what? You would think that they could go and give her a Happy Meal as a reward for that.
Hold on.
But in San Francisco...
Not so fast.
It's controversial.
Yeah.
The mayor, the city has banned Happy Meals, but the mayor says he's going to veto that ban. And so they're trying to figure out what it all means, and the city council is going to get involved. They don't want young people associating fast food with toys, right? But we've always had that in the Cracker Jack box, and remember in the cereal boxes and all the rest of that.
And look at us. We turned out okay, right? I like to think so.
Yeah, it's all, I guess it's open to debate. Gary Austin and Michael Patrick Shields, 18 after the hour. Are the Lions dirty players? That's what the NFL players are saying. We'll find out why when we come back with Ken Dallafor.
Get a victory Sunday.
Well, yeah, what do they got to go to Buffalo to do it? Buffalo is a pitiful team, but that doesn't mean anything right now because this is a team, the Lions, in serious flux, isn't it?
It is. I mean, with the number of injuries and the change of the quarterback back and forth and a number of other things, but it's the type of thing during an NFL season that you have to play over as a team, and they need to figure out how to do that, and they need to learn to win.
It's very frustrating, though, isn't it, to think we were finally getting some momentum, and we keep having these sort of stop, start. I mean, this was going to be the year, and it looked like it was, and the games are very entertaining, mind you. But, why did fate have to smile so unkindly on the Lions with the injuries and the controversies and all the rest?
I would agree. But I'll tell you something. I get a sense of spirit from the team they have and Coach Schwartz and the gang they put together over there. I somehow think they'll just keep fighting, and they will figure this thing out. And, I sound like a broken record probably, but and an optimist. But I do think they've got the right components on the team right now and the right leadership and at the coach, and they'll figure it out, and they'll figure out how to win.
What did you think of the Jets saying that the Lions are the dirtiest team they play in the NFL?
That's interesting. That's interesting response. I think sometimes you play hard, you play aggressive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotions and passion in the game, and some people just want to construe that as being dirty. And maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but I think they're playing hard, and sometimes you get tagged with that.
I got to tell you, I was happy to hear him say that. I mean, to me, that equated to...
I was a little bit proud myself, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, that means they're going after it big time, right? There's some fight in this team.
That was to my earlier point. I really do think there's some fight in this team, and there's got to be. It's an emotional, tough game, and, the NFL season is grueling, and all the things we talked about with injuries, those things are all playing it, so you better be tough and get through that stuff. Speaking
of injuries, the Lions have been a little bit dodgy with the quarterback situation with Matthew Stafford and his shoulder. They don't like to give out information, especially Jim Schwartz. He doesn't like to tell people the status of his players, whether it's Jason Hanson or Matthew Stafford, does he?
Yeah, and I think that's smart. There's a lot of reason not to do that. It's hard for other teams to prepare. It also doesn't allow for them to send signals as to potential roster moves that they're going to have to make or seeking what would be trades or people off the waiver wire. So I think it's a good practice. I would say that, with Matthew and Jason, I mean, those are two key guys, obviously, and you hope that they can get back on the field quickly.
So the situation is that Matthew Stafford will not be at quarterback this weekend against Buffalo. It's going to be Shaun Hill, and he's going to have a cast on while he plays quarterback. That won't be easy, will it?
Well, it's a good thing it's not on his throwing arm. So I think he's been able to play through it. Some of the indications coming out of Allen Park were that he's feeling 100%, and that's good to hear. He's done a great job for us, and I'm guessing Sunday he's going to jump back in and pick up where he left off when he left the game with the Giants.
That's going to be tricky because he's been gone 3 weeks now, something like that, if you count the bye week as well. And so he's going to have to shake off a little bit of rust too, I would think.
He's Yeah, a little bit of rust, but he's an 8 or 9 year veteran. He hasn't started his whole career, but he's played enough and been around it enough to be prepared. And those 3 weeks might have just allowed him to heal up, because I'm sure it wasn't just his arm.
Right.
Strikes on, you get beat up.
We have a listener in Texas, by the way.
I do, and Mr. Stafford, John Stafford, Matthew's dad, always checks in with me, and that's been a nice relationship to get to know John, and it's easy to see why the apple doesn't fall far from the tree in the sense of the kind of person that Matthew is.
Yeah, he's a very nice fella, and I was flattered to learn over the last couple of weeks that he listens to our interviews on podcasts down there in Texas and Dallas. And so hello to John Stafford this morning, and I'm sure that he watches every second of his son's playing football on television, and he's rooting for him like we are, obviously, but he must be pacing up and down that living room like nobody's ever seen before, because I know I would be if it were my son out there.
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine, but what a thrill, and to see your son do as well as his has in this situation. And just a comment about Matthew too. His entire career, high school, college, and football, he's never had an injury. So it's not like he came into this league with that tag of he's got he's injury prone. That's not been the case at all with Matthew. And so just one of those odd things. He could play another 10 years and never have another injury in his entire career. So it's a weird thing, and that's tough for John and Matthew and the family to have to sort of weather the storm of this injury.
What was it like with your father when you played in the NFL? Did you call him after every game? Did he watch on television? Did he come to the home games? Was he nervous about it all? What was it like?
Thanks for asking, Michael. Yes, my dad did. My parents and my dad particularly were great supporters, and I talked to him the night before. I talked to him immediately after the game, and full report. And he was a nervous wreck because he didn't get to expend any energy on the field like I did.
Yeah.
But he had to sit there with it all balled up, and that's tougher, I think, than actually getting to play.
Yeah, I bet. And has it been a year since you lost your father now?
It has, Michael. It's been a year in August, and miss him dearly. And so, he's a great guy, and boy, I wouldn't be anywhere close to the things I have in success without him, my parents, and the support I got from him.
Well, thank you very much, and we will watch this weekend with great interest as we do every weekend. Do you want to make a prediction?
I do, Michael. They have the Bills favored by 3 in Buffalo. Their offense seems to be clicking a little bit. They've got some injuries too. I'm going to take the Lions to win in Buffalo.
Did you just say that Buffalo's favored by 3?
Yes, the latest line last night had them favored by 3.
I'm a little shocked by that, aren't you?
I am too, but I'm taking the Lions. I think they're going to hopefully have some anger that they're going to apply to the game and go up there in Buffalo and get a victory.
All right, we're marking it down. We're keeping track, and we'll talk to you Monday morning.
Thanks, Michael, and have a great weekend.
You too. Ken Dallafor played for the Lions, the Steelers, the Chargers, the Michigan Panthers, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and now he's a senior vice president of group sales and corporate marketing for Honolulu Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Downtown Detroit yesterday, the Red Wings and the Edmonton Oilers laced up their skates and went at it, and radio broadcaster Ken Kal was there.
Thanks, Michael Patrick. Dan Cleary and Thomas Holmstrom each scored a pair of goals, leading the Red Wings to a 6-2 victory over the Edmonton Oilers last night at Joe Louis Arena. The win was Detroit's 10th of the season. Detroit jumped out to a commanding 3-0 first-period lead on Military Appreciation Night. Valtteri Filppula, Thomas Holmstrom, and Dan Cleary all turned on the red light behind Nikolai Khabibulin. Detroit added to their totals in the second as Cleary and Franzen scored goals for the Wings, for Franzen his 100th goal of his career. Dustin Penner netted a power play goal, and Theo Peckham scored on Jimmy Howard for the Oilers in the third. Holmstrom tallied for Detroit. Red Wings outshot the Oilers 34-25 in the contest. Again, the final score from Hockeytown, Detroit 6 and Edmonton 2. That's the story from Joe Louis Arena. Now back to you, Michael Patrick, in the studio.
Detroit Tiger first baseman Miguel Cabrera has won the American League Silver Slugger at first base. He also outpaced American League hitters with a .420 on-base percentage last year, too. Mike Ilitch is saying that he's very close to finalizing the deal to own the Detroit Pistons. That will give him just about a monopoly on the Detroit sports teams because he'll have the Tigers, the Red Wings, and the Pistons in his fold. Did you stay up and watch Thursday Night Football last night? Matt Ryan threw a 33-yard touchdown pass to Roddy White with 20 seconds left, so the Falcons beat the Ravens 26-21 last night. Congratulations there. I want to tell you, did you watch Keith Olbermann on MSNBC and his countdown show from 8 till 9 o'clock weeknights? Well, you know that he can be, does he appear bitter? But now the Wheel of Fortune host, Pat Sajak, who's been a TV personality for a long time, has been giving some choice words to Keith Olbermann. Now, let's not forget here, Sajak is a conservative. But in his blog this week, he apologized to the entire country for featuring Keith Olbermann on his talk show all the way back in 1989. He wrote a post, it's called Mea Culpa, and Pat Sajak said, "I was the person who introduced Keith Olbermann to America. I'm not sure how he morphed into the bitter-sounding, hate-mongering name-caller he's become, but I'm sorry he did." You remember Pat Sajak? He had like a Johnny Carson-style talk show. And Olbermann was a sportscaster at the time. And Pat Sajak says, "I do know that to whatever extent the political well has been poisoned, Keith has dumped more of his share of venom into the water. I'd like to think he knows that and maybe he regrets it. I like the old Keith Olbermann of 1989. So you want to know how Keith Olbermann responded to that? He sent a Twitter message and said that Sajak's statements are bull blank, you know what I mean? But he used the real word. He says, Keith Olbermann, "Pat Sajak did not introduce me to America. I started on CNN the same year he started on Wheel of Fortune. And I think that he needs to apologize for anything. It needs to be for that talk show. When he was canceled, he was replaced by a crime and skin series called Silk Stockings, for God's sakes." So maybe Keith Olbermann, with his nasty response, has proven the point of Pat Sajak there. Pat Sajak versus Keith Olbermann. That would be a good cage match, I guess, we would see there. At least it's a war of the words. We heard a lot about China during the gubernatorial election. General Motors courts investors for next week's initial public stock offering. Still struggling with losses in Europe and a soft recovery here at home, but you know what? Their operations are thriving. In China, the world's biggest automaker has outrun most of its competitors in China. And let's not forget, GM wasn't the first automaker to venture into China, but in the 13 years since GM teamed with Shanghai Automotive Industry, it's become the leading player there. They've sold more than 2 million cars and trucks in China. That's $1.1 billion in income for General Motors, and that's more than a fourth of its $4.2 billion profit in the first 3 quarters of 2010. So General Motors making hay in China. When we come back, we're going to get some travel tips for you for this holiday season and find out about that General Motors IPO. Should you buy it when it's available next week at about $26? Stay tuned. It's Michael Patrick Shields.
Will come down, London calling to the underworld. Come out of the cupboard, you boys and girls.
20 minutes before the hour, Michael Patrick Shields. Nice to connect with you this morning in Mount Pleasant, Petoskey, Traverse City, Hastings, Lansing, Saginaw, Manistee, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Ludington, and Muskegon, and all the places in between where you can hear us, like Gaylord and Cadillac. We're all across the state of Michigan, and very glad to hear. You can hear us even in Howell this morning. You may be listening in. Thank you very much for that. We are going to talk about travel in just a minute. First, though, there's going to be some travel in the state of Michigan this weekend. This is, it's deer season weekend. The rifle season starts on Monday, firearms season at first light, and so lots of people will be making their way to the weekend to get their tree stand ready or whatever they're going to do. Get their, I think there's going to be a lot of card playing this weekend is what's going to happen, and maybe some drinking and maybe some strategizing, and maybe some guys will be around, but there will be deer widows this weekend too, and so they talk about Black Friday as a big shopping day, the day after Thanksgiving. This weekend is a huge shopping weekend because while the cat's away, the mice will play. And lots of ladies and their mothers and their grandmothers and their girlfriends and their sisters are going to be warming up their credit cards. Birch Run Premium Outlets kicks off its answer with a Dear Widow weekend shopping event. And I think Mandy McGarry, Amanda Wall, my producer, goes to. Are you going to some of these sales?
I will be, but don't tell my husband. He should be in his car on the way to work, so he might be hearing.
Oh, he hasn't left yet.
Now,
wasn't it a couple of years ago he went deer, or right after you got married last year? He went deer hunting and came home and found all new furniture.
He did, yeah. I like to do things
What a
when
surprise.
he's gone. So he left and came home to a brand new bedroom set, and the walls were painted, and the room was clean, and there were lamps and
So he had nothing to say about it then.
No, but he loved it because when you love to come home to,
Well,
something brand new.
I would be a little startled, I guess. It's Dear Widows weekend, and I guess people come to Michigan from Indiana, Ohio, southwestern Ontario. They all come here to shop or hunt, and there's a lot of equity behind it. So there are sales and so forth, and you're going to be enjoying this festive weekend of shopping.
I will be. And his aunts and will all be out with us. We all go because the men go out and camp and hunt all weekend
You know
long,
what else you could
so
do while they're hunting is you could go to Firekeepers Casino, because your husband gets nervous when you go to the casino, right?
He doesn't get nervous because I always win.
Okay, so you could fund your shopping with a big win at Firekeepers.
I could.
It's a strategy.
We'll have to get all the aunts together and maybe take a girls' trip to the casino.
Well, good hunting to all of you, whether you're going to be hunting deer starting first light Monday morning or whether you're going to be doing a little hunting in the casino or bag hunting in all the shopping areas across the state of Michigan. We'll go live Monday morning at first light to all of the deer blinds. We have people all across the state who will be calling in and talking about the economic impact on Michigan and just giving us a taste of what it's like to be out there, the great hunter throughout the crunching leaves in the trees and ready to go at first light when the sounds of rifle. That'll be what you'll hear. You'll hear dawn breaking on Monday morning because of the rifle sounds, and we'll have plenty of colored report for you there. It's 43 minutes after the hour. Lisa Tucker McElroy is a travel expert, an author, and a mom. You probably wish you were in Michigan this weekend so you could take advantage of some of the great sales these stores are putting up, huh?
I love Michigan. I'd love to be shopping there. I'd love to be just hanging out there. Not too sure about the deer hunting, but other than that.
What do you love about Michigan?
Oh, I went to graduate school in Ann Arbor. I love the seasons. I just think it's a great community. The people are wonderful.
All right. And how can we reach you for expert travel tips?
There's a website that I really like these days that I contribute to. It's called sweettrip.com, like a hotel suite.
Yeah.
I'm into travel. And
Sweettrips.com is where we find Lisa Tucker McElroy, if you want to find that. TravelTatler.com, too, is another interesting site. Thank you very much. Well, come on up to Michigan. Why the heck not? The Dow yesterday lost 73 points. I hope that doesn't dent your shopping plans. The S&P lost 5 points, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ lost 23 points. The number of homes sold in the United States plummeted sharply in the third quarter. Prices fell only slightly, though, so you can do the math on that one there. The National Association of Realtors reported a 25% drop in home sales for the 3 months ending September 30th compared with the previous quarter. It's a troubling sign for the housing market given the recovery and the attractive prices. Why aren't they coming out to buy? Members of a key government panel on waste. Speaking of travel. Now, okay, let's say you're on the panel. And you're supposed to go somewhere and talk about reducing government waste. This was created by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. They're going to meet November 22nd and figure out ways to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse of the Recovery Act funds. The meeting place is the posh Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Phoenix, Arizona. It's in the middle of the city's premier shopping, dining, and financial district. And they are going to be living it up at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel while they try to figure out how to eliminate fraud and waste and abuse of funds. Nissan North America is recalling 604,500 vehicles. They have a steering column problem and a battery cable issue. So if you have a Nissan, you better check that out with your dealer. And summer business at Walt Disney World was just average. and not enough to help the parent company's bottom line. Figures released Thursday show profits at Walt Disney Company slipped 7% during the last 3 months of its fiscal year. That's down from last year, too, at the theme parks. All right, the IPO for General Motors. Do you want to buy it? That's the question we'll ask Jamie Westenbarger and find out about your money when we come back in 4 minutes. It's Michael Patrick Shields, straight ahead. A story we've been following very closely, and you know it because you've been hearing it too from us on a number of occasions, is the battle for the Straits of Mackinac. What will happen with the ferry situation there next year? You know, a lot of people go to Mackinac Island. They come from all across the country to go there, and the only way to get there, unless they have a private plane or a small charter plane, is to take one of the 3 ferries. And part of the experience really is going across the straits from either St. Ignace or from Mackinac City on one of the 3 ferry lines. And the question seems to be, will there be 3 ferry lines next year? Will there not? How will the service change? How will it impact us? We're going to talk with Mr. Jim Wynn coming up right after the top of the hour news. He's the owner of Arnold Transit, and he'll give us his side of the story, but it is still unfolding as we speak. Scarlett Johansson will be hosting Saturday Night Live tomorrow night, in case you're still awake. And we never let the birthday of a beautiful woman pass without taking note. Nadia Comaneci is 49 today, the former Olympic gymnast. Tanya Harding, who was an Olympic skater, sort of, is 40 today. You know her best for some of her off-the-ice antics with Nancy Kerrigan and some of her reality shows and things like that. Bad girl. And there's a place for bad girls. And Anne Hathaway, who's pretty well known as a good girl, is 28 today, the actress from The Princess Diaries and Brokeback Mountain and so forth. So happy birthday, darlings, to all of you. Let's talk, as I promised, about your money with Jamie Westenbarger from Forest Hills Financial. He's a registered principal of Invest Financial and the president of Forest Hills Financial Incorporated. Got to remind you that Invest is not affiliated with Forest Hills Financial, so the opinions expressed are those of Jamie and not necessarily those of Invest. Good morning to you.
Hey, how you doing, Michael Patrick?
We're within 7 days now to the General Motors initial public offering next week, and I know I've been asking you a lot about it, but as it gets closer and closer now, you're probably having clients ask you about it too. And what are you telling them? What do you think?
Well, you know, with any IPO, you have to kind of be careful about some of the hype that surrounds it, and really making sure that you're looking at the bottom line and what the company's doing. And you know, one thing that you've got to say with General Motors is they've made an amazing turnaround. I mean, we've got 3 straight quarters of profit. They made $2 billion here the last quarter. Those are all really good things to see. You know, does that mean you run out and buy shares of it? Well, it depends on what your situation is and what you're looking to accomplish. But it is nice to see this long-term American company be able to maybe start trying to right the ship a little bit. And this initial public offering is just another step in going back to being a normal Fortune 500 profitable company again.
Is there some ways that the company, General Motors, can sort of manipulate its position to make that stock more appealing at the start? Because they're expecting there to be lots of hoopla and excitement around it, right?
Yeah, they're expecting a lot of excitement around it, and there's going to be a lot of news tied into it, good and bad, simply because of how much the United States government owns of the company. Currently, 61% of the company is owned by the U.S. Government, so there's going to be a lot of people interested in it, even if they're not interested in the stock itself, just to see how much money and how much of this debt that General Motors owes the United States begins to be paid back. Because really the big step of this initial public offering is if this goes well and the stock continues to rise, which may or may not happen, it would give the opportunity then for them to offer a further amount of stock in the future, which would be a good chunk of what they use to pay back the United States government.
Isn't there typically a bump right after, the day after, in fact, an initial public offering?
There can be. A lot of times on that day, the initial excitement of it has a tendency to potentially move it up. It's interesting, though. Goldman Sachs is reporting that there's quite a bit of initial interest in it, and there was even a report yesterday that they were going to stop taking orders a couple days early. Now they've came out this morning and said that's not true.
I see.
But yeah, I mean, it's possible that they could have a lot of it sold before it even starts trading.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. And so let's say you get your broker that morning. It's looking like it's going to be somewhere, between $25 and $30 a share?
That's what it looks like right now, yep.
Do you think that it's a patriotic sort of thing to do to buy General Motors stock?
I don't ever let patriotic things determine what I'm going to buy in stock.
Have you been following at all what's going on in Ireland, by the way? My beloved Ireland, it looks like they may need a sort of Greek-style rescue.
Yes, I also have the Irish blood in me, Michael, and I agree. Things are kind of ugly over there, but Europe as a whole, it's been they keep picking one country or another country as having issues, but when you have a currency tied into so many different countries that have so different of fiscal policies and how they handle money, this is something that unfortunately a lot of people think we'll see more and more, just because even though they all have one currency, they don't have one fiscal policy, which can cause a lot of problems. There were a lot of talks yesterday at the G20 about how they were going to address this, and it looks like the EU is going to bail them out very similarly to the way they did the Greeks, here a few months ago.
They were the envy of the world at one time, the Celtic Tiger, they called it. Ireland, because of its economy, now struggling, and real estate is a big part of that, we see. Jamie Westenbarger, Forest Hills Financial in Grand Rapids. We'll talk about the Battle of the Straits of Mackinac next hour when we get back right after the news. It's Michael Patrick Shields. Welcome to Friday. Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Michigan and all the boats in the lakes. It's Michael Patrick Shields with you. And speaking of boats in the lakes, because we have provided extensive coverage to the story that I sort of call the battle in the Straits of Mackinac, and only in a sardonic sort of way, because it's a very serious matter. There are lots of employees involved. There are lots of livelihoods, and there are traditions involved too, because on Mackinac Island, people come from all across the country to go there. They ride the ferries, and believe me, if you've never been there, which I would find hard to believe, but I would encourage you to go, once you get on that ferry and you pull away from either St. Ignace or Mackinac City, your cares just kind of float away, because suddenly you're on island time, and you arrive at Mackinac Island, and you just breathe a little easier, you feel a little better. And you see kids riding their bikes, you see horses, there are no cars, you don't have to worry about any troubles. And if you want to get away from all of the commercial district of Mackinac Island, which is very quaint, there are no chain restaurants there, it's mom and pop. And then, of course, Grand Hotel up on the hill, and you can go around the back of the island and see nothing but lake and trees. It's a paradise, really, in the United States and here in the state of Michigan. And this morning we welcome to the program James Wynn, who has decided that he wants to merge the Arnold Line Ferry with the Star Line Ferry and create the Northern Ferry Company. And as I understand it, he has requested the new company be granted exclusive franchise rights to and from Mackinac Island, and that would mean that his ferry line would be the only one providing service. That would end the Shepler's business, which has been there for 60 years. Good morning, Mr. Wynn.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
I hope I laid that out accurately. You went to the city of Mackinac with a new idea about how the ferry services could run. And can you lay that out, your new idea?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a new idea, Michael Patrick. The ferry system is, since the inception of the ferry boat code in 1978, has been a public utility and regulated. The rates and schedule have been regulated by the city since 1978, and that's when they imposed the requirement of a franchise in order to operate passenger and freight business to and from the island.
And we should remember, too, that it's not all tourism. There are people who actually live on the island who use
roughly 500 residents, year-round residents, that actually use the system more than anybody. And thank you for the wonderful introduction about the island. I think it's an absolutely wonderful place, too.
Yeah, it's unlike any place in the world that I've ever been, and I've been a lot of places in the world.
Extremely unique, and that's what back in 1899, when the state granted the city of Mackinac Island extraordinary powers through the charter of 1899, that unlike any other community in the state, that there is no federal highway or there's no state highway connecting the mainland to Mackinac Island. It's all on the backs of either private boats or, as you said before, private planes or the ferry services. And so that the government of Mackinac Island has been given extraordinary powers to regulate that system.
So why would it be better for the city of Mackinac Island and Mackinac Island in general if you were the only ferry service provider?
Well, we've been working on this, Michael Patrick, for the better part of the last 4 years. And when I say we, all the ferry boat companies and I, Shepler's and Star and myself, along with the former owners of Arnold Transit, been working to try to consolidate this system into one, because at least over the last decade, what we've seen is in the published rate, the required published rate. Again, every year, each ferry boat company is required to set or establish their schedule and their price. And that published rate over the last decade has almost doubled, and the passenger traffic to the island has declined by roughly 25%. In the latter part of the 1990s, we had passenger traffic going to the island of almost 1 million people. And over the last couple of years, a decade later, we've seen a 25% decline. The passenger traffic is in more along the lines of 750,000. And the island and the residents and the people who own businesses are concerned about that decline. And the part of a component of that decline has been the doubling of the ferry boat fares over that period of time.
So you're suggesting there's a duplication of services, and if there were
if there is such a word, it's triplicate. Because there's
triplication.
We've made a word up here, but
yeah, you're merging two of them. So
when the three boat lines leave the docks in Mackinac City, as an example, there are 25 trips every day from each of the three docks just out of Mackinac City, and there's a more efficient way to do that in consolidation. And quite frankly, and as I said before, we all worked together, spending thousands of hours together, including the Shepler family, to try to resolve the problem.
So by your math, if you had more volume, because Shepler's wouldn't be there, you would be able to lower the prices based on the volume. Is that right?
What has gone on with the doubling of the fares over the last decade, that amount of money has been able to fuel excess capacity, and there's way too much capacity in the system that needs to be more efficient to bring prices down. Not only passenger fares, but the freight rates need to come down, and more money could be generated in the form of a franchise fee to the city that could enable it to promote the island more, or for city services. Our proposal increases, if we can consolidate the entire system, we can increase the franchise fee to the city from the current $300,000 from with all three companies in play to upwards of $2.7 million in franchise fee from the current $300,000.
So the city would get, instead of $300,000 a year, $2.7 million, you say?
That's correct.
Is it unpleasant for you to realize that there are X number of employees at the Shepler line?
We've always contemplated throughout this whole process that the full-time employees in the system would have a job in the new system, and that's always been the contemplation of this consolidation. Again, as I said, we spent thousands of man-hours. This was not made up on overnight on a napkin 6 months ago. We started in earnest in the fourth quarter of 2006 with Bill Shepler at our side, and and the Starline people at our side to put this program together that would include the employment of all their full-time employees.
Most people,
including the continued lease of the Mackinac City dock.
And at what price could you set the fares if you had the arrangement go your way?
It really depends on what the city and the constituents of the city of Mackinac Island desire. Mm-hmm. It really is up to the city. The franchise that has been granted for the last 35 years is owned by the city. There are no property interests in the franchisee. The boat lines do not own the franchise. It's the cities. Mm-hmm. And it's specifically stated in the ordinance, that the ordinance has been in place for 32 years now, that franchisees, in other words, the boat companies, do not have a property interest in that franchise. And so it really is up to the city what services does the city want, what's the schedule that they want, what's the fare that they want, and what does the franchise fee, and plugging those desires and wants of the city into the system, then I could answer your question better. But it really is up to the city.
Okay, and now the mayor told me a couple of days ago that she's hoping to make a decision, not she, but the council, by the first of the year, and maybe before that. Is that what you're hearing too?
That's what we hear. But what the city council has been trying to do is gather information, and they've made a couple of requests of all the ferry boat companies to submit information to them, and so they can make an informed decision. And Arnold Transit has complied, Star has complied, and Shepler has not. Shepler has not been forthcoming with any information to the city, and obviously they've filed a lawsuit against us, not only the city but us. But in order for the city council to make an informed decision on how to proceed, they need information, and we're providing that to them, and they're not.
Well, thank you for giving us information this morning and laying out your plan for us, Mr. Jim Wynn. We certainly appreciate it, and we'll be in touch as we continue to follow this story. He is the owner of Arnold Transit, which is the Arnold Line and the Star Line merged together, working with the Mackinac City Council to figure out whether there will be. It would be essentially two ferry lines if Shepler's were awarded a contract as well. We'll be in touch. It's 18 after the hour. We're going live to Coopersville. Mayor Kenneth Busch will join us when we get back with a surprising story. And John Madden, the Michigan State University Marching Band Director. Stay tuned for that. It's Michael Patrick Shields. We love these kind of positive stories about young people, and what happened in Coopersville is making news here across Michigan, and I presume it will eventually be national news. But you named your Citizen of the Year award, and a lot of people are surprised at the person who won the Citizen of the Year award in Coopersville. Can you tell us who you picked and why?
Oh, Shelby Lynn Meitzma, 10-year-old student, Coopersville Junior High. Just a dynamic young lady. She just goes above and beyond. You know, every year I make this award, and what I try to do is pick a citizen that has done things for the community that makes this a better place to live. And this year, Shelby was definitely my choice.
She's a fifth grader. She's 10 years old. What did she do?
Well, how this started, her mother has a rare blood disease and needed quite a few transfusions, and while she was in the hospital with her, she started asking the question where all this blood came from. And her immediate response when she found out it was from donations from other people was, we've got to give this back. So she asked how this took place and stuff, and she contacted the Michigan Blood Center and started asking questions about it and helped set this thing up. And she's done 3 blood drives. She's done a bone marrow drive. She's done a organ donor drive, and also set up a health fair in the city of Coopersville.
Isn't that astonishing?
Oh, it's unbelievable for a 10-year-old. You know, just the forethought and the charisma that this young lady has, just unbelievable.
Well, they talk about Sarah Palin being elected president, and I think I would vote for Shelby Lynn Meitzma before I would vote for Sarah Palin.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I've said before. I says, you know, she said, well, this is one thing I've done. I said, you know, this won't be the last time we hear from Shelby Lynn Meitzma.
Yeah. Well, we're going to make her our Northwood University Leader of the Day. Northwood University is celebrating 50 years of producing leaders, and when she says sometimes you just got to put other things before you, and then you realize she's 10 years old and in the 5th grade, I mean, that's some serious leadership there.
Oh, it is. It is. And, you know, I credit her parents because, you know, they've taught this young lady that giving back is very, very important.
Well, we'd like to connect with her, and if nothing else, make sure that her parents and she get to hear the podcast of this interview because it's being heard all across the state of Michigan, and we couldn't be prouder. So Amanda Wall, my producer, will get in touch with you, and we'll figure out a way to get the link to her because what we want to do more than anything is to reinforce, with positive reinforcement and appreciation, the attitude that she has.
Oh, absolutely. This young lady she's extraordinary, and we interviewed yesterday with her principal, too, and he echoes my sentiments exactly. She demonstrates this type of leadership every day.
5th grader Shelby Lynn Meitzma from Coopersville, the youngest person ever to receive the Citizen of the Year award there in Coopersville, and she has our admiration. Let me just ask you real quickly off topic. Out in San Francisco, the mayor's trying to figure out what to do because the city has banned Happy Meals. And I think he's going to veto it, and the city council's not sure what to do. If you had the decision in Coopersville, Michigan, would you ban Happy Meals?
Oh, my word. McDonald's is one of our major employers here.
Yeah.
That would be a very, very tough decision. Yeah. I think my concern would be to make sure that what we're giving kids is good. Mm-hmm. You know, so I would probably want to sit down with McDonald's and say, you know, are we providing the best meals for these youngsters?
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for being available, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Sure appreciate it. John Madden, it's got to happen from time to time that you meet young people that surprise you with their presence, right?
Absolutely. You know, I get a countless number of emails and letters from, you know, elementary age, middle school age students who, you know, because of their new attachment to music, let's say I just started playing an instrument in band, and they want to know more about this, and can we come to a rehearsal? And
oh yeah,
it's, you know, that's part of what we do as teachers. Is any age, it doesn't really matter, but we stretch out and give them the best we have.
John Madden is the director of the Michigan State Marching Band. You're on the road to Indianapolis. You've made that trip a bunch of times, haven't you?
You and I spoke in Indianapolis last spring.
The Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and yes, we have, and that's a second home to the Spartans, you know, for some really memorable events.
Yeah, and I think the women's Final Four for basketball is in Indianapolis again this year too. But you're not going to score a sporting event this time.
No,
you're going to be the star of the show.
An unusual set of circumstances lined up so we were able to do this, but this performance that we're talking about is at the Bands of America Grand National Championships, which is the largest organization of its kind for high school marching bands who are involved in the competitive arena. You know, and a lot of folks don't realize that, you know, some high school marching bands line up and do that kind of thing in a structured environment where, you know, there's a point system. It's sort of like an Olympic scoring system. And certainly college bands don't do that. And every marching band in the state of Michigan doesn't do that. But Bands of America will pull in 95 to 100 marching bands for their finals from all over the country. And some of these bands are the elite of the elite and put an awful lot of resources behind what it takes to perform at that caliber and what it takes to get there. I mean, these are expensive trips to get these bands from all over the country to Lucas Oil Stadium. So they annually invite a college band or two to do an exhibition performance, and this being their 35th anniversary, one of their marquee anniversaries. We've had the invitation in the past. We haven't been able to say yes because we have, you know,
football game.
That's what we're here for. But the planet's lined up. We're on a bye this week, and we have some donors that supported this trip for us, and we're really excited to go down and do sort of the Big Ten band thing.
Do you recruit members from high schools for the band?
Well, I think this is how we do that. You know, like anything else at Michigan State University that's associated with our land grant philosophy, we have to go out and be with the people and show them what we do. And I always labeled the Spartan Marching Band as one of those proud welcome mat kinds of organizations. Everybody is proud of the Spartan Marching Band. I think it's iconic, and it has hallmarks that people love and they sort of dig into and are proud of. And if we can be visible in an environment like this, I think that's very tangible recruiting. We don't recruit the way my colleagues in athletics recruit, with rules and visits and campus visits and all that. But anytime we can perform in front of a new audience, that's recruiting.
And it's indoors at Lucas Oil Stadium. What does that do for the sound?
Well, it would definitely create more reverb and ring, and it's sort of like the concert hall effect versus the open air effect. I've been to Lucas Oil for other events. Drum Corps International has their big summer finals there, and I'm involved in that, and it definitely rings a little bit more. There are challenges to that sound versus what we're used to in our stadium or our own practice field, but we're prepared for that.
So if anybody wants to go to Indianapolis, when does the event take place?
Well,
cheer you on.
It started yesterday.
Did it?
It's a 3-4 day event, but there's a series of preliminary competitions that go on, and then this runs right up until Saturday night where the big finals are performing. But we perform tonight at the end of a long day of preliminaries at 8:30, and then we perform tomorrow at 1:30 in the afternoon. And, folks in the area who feel like we're going to be in Indy and want to take this in, we're going to do about a 20-minute slot in both of those two cases, but it's literally some of the finest high school bands all over the country performing constantly for this stretch of days.
Do you have your fingers crossed for a particular bowl game for the Spartans? I do.
I do too. But there are certain.
You want to go to Pasadena, right?
Sure.
Me too.
I've been doing this for 22 years. I became the band director the year after we went to Pasadena the last time.
That'd be your first Rose Bowl appearance.
Wouldn't that be a dream come true?
Yeah.
It really would be. And yet, I'm so proud of the team and where Mark has them and the way they fight as a team. Our band is very connected to our football team. And, we sure hope for that. And there's so many exciting things. I mean, tonight's the opener for Tom Izzo and Spartan basketball, and hockey's revving up, and it's a great time of year for athletics.
So you're performing tonight, and yet we have a basketball game.
And our alumni band is coming.
Oh, good.
To the
That's
cause
always
tonight.
fun to see.
Well, that's another great thing about everything we do, and we're not going to let those folks down, and it gives our alums a chance to come in and play. And
they always look like they're having so much fun.
They do, and they sort of cover us when we're on winter break.
Yeah.
And so here we go. We've got a great alumni volunteer group for the weekend while we're gone, and all my colleagues in athletics know we're at a very big time thing, and it's important for us and the university, and everybody is very supportive. So
they always look and feel young when they're playing that
Absolutely.
alumni
and
band.
We
It's
have
a gas.
some 70-year-old folks in there and some 80-year-old folks in there, and people approaching 90 who are still playing their horn or their drum.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to play you off here with Robert Preston then and the Music Man, if that's okay.
That sounds great.
I'm sure that you heard that when you were a young fella.
I did.
It inspired you. Here you go, Tony Cuthbert. This is for John Madden, the Michigan State University Athletic Band Director. Thank you very much, sir. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Attention, please. I can deal with the troubled friends with a wave of my hand, this very hand. Please observe me if you will. I'm Professor Harold Hill, and I'm here to organize a River City Boys band. Oh, think, my friends, how can any pool table
Firekeepers Friday on this program. It's Michael Patrick Shields, and we're heard all across the state of Michigan: Mount Pleasant, Petoskey, Traverse City, Hastings, Lansing, Saginaw, Manistee, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Ludington, Muskegon, Gaylord, Cadillac, you name it, we're there. Even Mackinac Island. Next hour, I'd like to hear from you on what you think about this Mackinac Island ferry situation. Do you think that in the interest of money, they should shove out Sheplers and trim down to just Star Line and Arnold Line, which would be one service? What do you like? What do you think of the whole idea? I got a text already from a listener this morning who, it's an email actually, when you can connect through us at MichiganTalkNetwork.com. And he says, I'd like to know if the Arnold Line gets the only franchise, if they're going to add more boats since Sheplers is not in business. The wait time is sometimes a long time now, and if you eliminate competition, it'll only get worse. I believe this is a huge mistake, and the only way to improve service is through competition. Our phone number is 888-900-9966, and we'll begin taking phone calls right after the top of the hour news about the battle in the Straits. Now, we're going to be joined right now by a couple of movie guys. We love to talk about the movies. Rick Hurd is here from the West Michigan Film Office. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. We like to keep Ever since this film tax credit has come in, we keep hearing stories. I ran into, Richard Gere buying cheeseburgers for the crew in River Rouge, and I saw George Clooney at the airport, and I saw, what's his name, Amanda? The guy that, Hugh Jackman at the Mason Courthouse or here at the Radisson in downtown Lansing. And West Michigan's got celebrities running around all over the place. Who's next?
Who's next? Well, we've got a movie called The Setup that is just announced. They're crewing up here, and it's Bruce Willis will be in it, among others. Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent will be in it as well. And, of course, we're working on some other projects for the area as well.
So Bruce Willis is going to be in West Michigan?
Yeah. I don't, not for an extended period, but, we're looking forward to having him here.
I like how you say that. It's Curtis Jackson, better known as?
50 Cent.
50 Cent, not 50 Cent. 50 Cent.
No, he's done 3 other movies here. So, he's a gentleman. He's welcome in our community. And hopefully I get his name right, 50 Cent.
50 Cent. One time I was at this event in, where was it? Down in Nassau in the Bahamas. It was the Michael Jordan Celebrity Golf Tournament at Atlantis. And there were celebrities all over the place running around. Vivian, what's her name? Vivica Fox? Vivica Fox was there, and Carson Daly, and John McEnroe, and Michael Jordan. And I was talking to some people, and I said, I ran into a rap star today. They said, who was it? I said, I think his name was Display. They said, Display? What are you talking about? And we were trying to figure it out, and finally one young girl says, are you talking about Exhibit? I said, yeah, okay, Exhibit, whatever, Display. I don't know what to mean. It's funny to keep track. So who are some of the big names that have come to West Michigan since the movies have been made here?
Well, it's I think back to this summer. We had Christian Slater doing a film called Playback, and we had Jane Seymour doing a Hallmark movie called
that's right.
Prudence Again, which was a thrill.
Yep.
And again, we're looking to the future where we've got some other bigger projects coming up that I think kind of put the whole state and that's really the essence of what we're talking about here. Is not only is it nice to be able to see the actors, but for me that's really kind of the side story. The big story is jobs created, hotel rooms created.
Yeah.
The vendors list, folks that are coming in and spending money.
Well, we're all happy about that, and we give them a dose of pure Michigan, and they go back and tell everybody about it. They become ambassadors, don't they, Rick Hurt? And we sure appreciate you being an ambassador of the business for the state, the show business in Michigan. He is the West Michigan Film Office Director, Rick Hurt. And we will talk again soon. Over also in West Michigan, Ron Van Timmeren from Celebration Cinemas. We've heard about the actors doing the work. What will we see on the silver screen this weekend?
3 wide releases as part of the Hollywood holiday movie season. Unstoppable looks like, pardon me, the best one this weekend.
That's the Runaway Train movie?
Chris Pine, director Tony Scott, a real thriller action drama based on a true story about a runaway train and the guys who trying to save the world, or at least part of the world, from blowing up from that train wreck. Mm-hmm. Skyline is a sci-fi action picture this weekend. That's rated PG-13. And Morning Glory, Harrison Ford, Diane Keaton, Rachel McAdams star in a romantic comedy about the funny stuff that happens on morning television programming.
Did you hear that whoop that went up from the producers? First of all, why are you so excited about this Morning Glory movie?
Because Harrison Ford is the #1 most attractive man in the whole world.
Ron Van Timmeren, do you know how old Amanda Wall is?
Younger than Harrison Ford, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's 24?
24.
She loves Harrison Ford.
You know what? I think he's a terrific actor, too, but he's kind of a sourpuss, Amanda. Don't you like happy guys?
I like the way he looks.
Now, this is going to be a little insider baseball for us because we do a morning TV show every single day. So have you seen it yet?
No, but I've talked to a lot of people that said it was very funny and very well written, and of course very well acted with that cast, and looks like a good date night movie. And yeah, if you're in the business, then you're going to get a lot more of the jokes than anybody else.
All right, I'm going to go see it this weekend. Amanda, you're a dear widow, so you can go see it this weekend too. And then Monday we'll reconvene and talk about Morning Glory with Harrison Ford. Who's the female lead in that picture?
Diane Keaton and Rachel McAdams. And don't forget, next week, Harry Potter.
Wednesday, is it?
It is on Thursday at midnight.
Thursday at midnight. Ron Van Timmeren.
See you at the movies.
You too. Michael Patrick Shields on Friday.